Alright, so I had a glance at the first couple minutes of this, and I think there's a couple things that I can talk about and maybe show you that could be helpful. So let's go ahead and jump right in. And I apologize for the mic quality here. It is pretty much the best thing I can do. Yeah, so in your comment, you mentioned that maybe you don't capitalize as much on some opportunities. And I think part of that is when playing Genji, like where you're positioned and what you're noticing that the enemy team is doing, their cooldown usage and moments when they seem vulnerable to you. So let's just have a watch here and see what's going on. Okay, so first off, to talk about positioning, um, there we go. So Genji is very good at taking off angles because of your mobility, right? Like you can climb walls, you can double jump, you can dash, which is another mobility tool. You don't necessarily have to dash onto someone. You can use it as an escape to get to cover, you know. Uh, when we talk about off angles, essentially that means an angle that is different from what your team is doing. So I'm not mad at this positioning or anything like that. It is, in a way, a bit of an off angle because, you know, if you have someone low ground, they would have to choose between, you know, looking down mid here or turning their crosshair up slightly. But that's a thing to keep in mind. If your angle is not very different from your team, then an enemy doesn't have to spend a lot of effort choosing to shoot at you as opposed to choosing to shoot at your team. Um, there are other situations, like maybe you could even take a closer angle here, right? And if you're kind of like poking out a little bit, like shooting there, or maybe you're coming into here for cover, right? So no one can shoot you if you're over here, and you just kind of peek and poke up at that angle and hide again, and peek and hide again. That keeps you a little bit safe, and it forces the enemy to choose where their crosshair is going. So either they're looking down in mid, or they have to like place their crosshair way over in this building. Most especially if these people get on low ground, like the difference between this and this, even if they're like closer up here and looking almost straight up at you, right? That's a huge difference in their ability to get value out of just primary fire, right? Okay, so yeah. Another spooky thing too is like if you're noticing the window, if this was a better widow, she would have just immediately headshot you. Like you got shot in the body, which allowed you the time to say, "Oh shit, I don't want to be here. I'm gonna like move over here." But in even like a slightly higher rank, the widow's likely gonna like hit the headshot from this positioning. It's just very simple for her. So in an instance where you kind of know they have a sniper, they have someone you don't want to peek too much, just like hug walls. Sometimes playing close like this is the safer option, right? Because she has no sightlines on you here. Right, and so I get where you're going, and I'm not very mad at this, but the peak, like you're so headshotable in those locations. You know, you want to take an off angle. She doesn't just have to look down mid to see you. Oh, that looked a little laggy there. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So basically, when you know where Widow's positioned and she's staying in that location, every time you show your head, you're in danger. Okay, clearing high ground. I like that. Okay. One tiny thing that, yeah, and you're doing it now. At this range specifically, you want to be using your primary fire, your M1, because that's more your precise, your long range, your poke kind of tool. And your right click is when you close the distance, and it's really short range because right click, because it spreads out. Like if you're very, very close, like hugging someone's face, you're likely going to land all three of those shuriken in their body if you're close enough, right? So that's sort of what right click is for. I see that too. I know. I see how your supports just don't notice you exist. Okay, Widow has sights. Be aware of that. Again, left click there would have potentially M1 would have potentially given you more shuriken into that Mei. I believe you mentioned that you're getting used to mouse and keyboard too, so we can talk about some stuff that you can practice with it. Yeah, again, yeah, they just don't notice you, and that's okay. If you're in a situation where your supports are just not paying attention to you at all, there's no shame in just immediately seeking out a health pack, right? Like take the mental burden off of them. Yeah, that was the wall climb there specifically is very janky, so can't really be blamed for that. But try to get used to kind of knowing where those spots are, because sometimes that ability just doesn't work, and there's some very specific spots that it consistently doesn't work well on. That's one of them. Good dash. And okay, and I'm going to go back a little bit. So that's a good dash in my mind because let's play it for a second. So you're engaging on a target. You see the mercy and you say, oh no, I don't want her to res it. So you go for it, right? This is, in my mind, a good dash because the risky thing is now you are facing a bunch of people who can look at you and shoot at you, right? Like, as long as you're visible to the enemy, they have the ability to put damage into you. But the reason I think this was a good dash is because with this movement, you've now put yourself close to a wall and very close to a location where you can so quickly duck and find cover. So when you're playing this hero, try not to stand in the open so much. You want to be thinking like, where can I position where the wall is your shield, right? Where I call it reducing sight lines. So you want to reduce the amount of time that the enemy sees you if you are not engaging on them. So you dash the mercy. So it's fine if she sees you because you're engaging on her. You're saying, I want to try to kill you. But you didn't dash the widow. You didn't dash the Kiri. And so these are people you're not in range and you don't have the abilities right now to engage on them, to dive them. And since they're not your engaged targets, it's okay to have tried and not gotten the kill, as long as you can still maintain your life. So because these targets you haven't engaged can see you, the fact that you've positioned yourself in a place where you could take quick cover and be pretty safe, even though this guy's getting rezzed, you can just kind of scoot back around here, right? You have wall climb. You can scoot back around. If you need a health pack, it's there. Wow, I didn't even realize she was back here. Crazy. Or you can just like hop up to the high ground real quick, right? And you have all this good cover for you. I like this flank you're taking. See, because you reduce sightlines on that flank. Okay, this is a little awkward. They all turned to look at you. But that was a really good idea, and it's okay to disengage there, right? You took all that attention. And you lived it is the important part. You took the attention and you survived it. So at this point, yeah, the dash. Very nice, love it. One thing you can practice is that combo just a little bit quicker. And I will show you some custom games you can jump into for practicing. Okay, so one thing we can talk about is it's okay to be aggressive and choose these engagements, but it's very important that you survive them, right? So you got your pick. That was great. And then you hop down here. You don't necessarily need to hop down here. There's kind of two different modes that you play Genji on. Not you, but like in general, Genji is played on. Um, and for me, that is a poke phase where you're not at your optimal range. You're not likely gonna like burst down and get a kill from distance. That's just not really how Genji gets his kills. He's more of a close range hero. Um, but if you're in range and you're hitting M1 just for like ult charge, poking at people, literally just taking their attention. So if you're over here poking, say at this Mei or trying to get this person down lower, right? Instead of the Mei shooting over here at your Rhine shield, trying to shoot at your Anna, like if your Rhine lets down his shield for a second, this Anna, because of her positioning, is probably dead to this Mei. If you're poking from here, she's likely going to take her crosshair and move it way up there and start trying to shoot at you. which means that you're kind of mitigating damage for your team over here because any moment that you've taken someone's attention away from your team and they're looking at you, if you can survive those moments, you are providing kind of this hidden value to your team. Your Ryan's shield is going to last longer. Your Anna probably won't get popped in the head by a May icicle. And you can just like take cover, poke a little bit, take cover. And, if your health is low, here's the other kind of important thing. When you take up a position or you choose a place to be, I want you to be thinking about your escape plan, basically. So this is like here is a very safe poke position because you can poke and get a little bit of damage. And if you get really low, maybe you're even so low and maybe you don't even trust your supports to even look at you and heal you. If you get super low, you can literally just take cover and the self-healing will kick in eventually. Um, but that's just a very safe environment for you. And taking the least amount of damage possible in a poke phase is generally a good idea because that allows you the time to set up for a dive. In a poke phase, you're kind of looking for your opportunities. Who do you want to dive? What abilities have they used? If you see this ice use this may use her ice block, then you can say, oh, well, she's more diveable now because she can't just like disappear and become invincible if I get her really low, right? You want to be looking for those sorts of opportunities in your poke phase. So let's keep going. Okay, you have Blade. I'm wondering what opportunity will arise for you to use Blade? What are you looking for to happen? Okay, so the death here, let's go back just a little tiny bit. Okay, so you get a good thing there. At this point, you're down a support, right? Okay, and when you turn in this moment, yeah, when you turn in this moment, it's not. I wouldn't call this necessarily a bad position, um, but based on the body language of your teammates, it doesn't look likely that they want to engage in this fight, right? So you have the enemy team pushing up here, and you turn and look, and you can see visibly that this guy's probably going to die, right? Because he's just walking out in the open, and he's just probably walking in a straight line. Your Ryan has backed up so much, likely because your support just got right there, that he's probably not looking to engage or push forward. Basically, what I'm saying is if your team was in a position to take this fight, if your Ryan was walking forward, if your Anna was alive, then your positioning here would be fantastic because this is a pincer move. So if your tank was like, yeah, let's go for it, and he's pushing in and you have your whole team over here, um, then you being here at that time would be such a distraction for the enemy. A lot of them would be looking towards your team. Even if they turn to you, right? Then let's look at the difference of this sightline. Like it's insane, right? Like if they're wanting to shoot here and they turn to you, their back is literally turned to your team over here. Unfortunately, positioning is also it's a little bit of where you're standing and it's a little bit of timing. So in this specific situation, if you see that your team is backing up, this position right here becomes incredibly dangerous because you're no longer like pinching the enemy team and like corralling them into this space. They're just taking space. They're just like imagine a big like red um, crown and they're just drawing it all over the street right now. And if you stand in the red, then you have a very high chance of dying. And part of the reason that happened is because your tank's backing up. But in timing situations like that, like try to think of your positioning and potentially think of your escape route. Like, where are you going to go if they turn at this moment and your Rhine is no longer even trying to take their attention, right? So, in that situation, I think the death occurred because you poked the May a little bit. Um, she was not necessarily diveable simply because you can see this Maga charging in over here. So if you dashed on her to try to get the kill, like it could potentially happen. You can get your dash reset, but it's incredibly risky. because of this guy. So in my mind, I'd kind of be looking at the situation and thinking, okay, this is sort of the time where I should be retreating to a safe distance, maybe kind of taking these little side angles. I could even wait out here for a minute and just like let the cart pass to just make sure that the whole enemy is looking over here, because I don't want to cross this street as they're also walking past the street and then they accidentally see me out of the corner of their eye. Like, that's just unfortunate. You can totally just like hide, chill for a second, look for the opportunity to. I mean, you're a cyborg ninja, right? Be sneaky, just chill, and then when they're not paying attention, like, okay, I'm gonna walk over here now, and you can begin setting up for another position. So like even here, you could wait here and just look in this direction and see when your team respawns, and when you see their blue outlines getting up to maybe around here or so, like as the card is pushing forward, well, that means your team would be fighting here and the enemy would be fighting here, right? And then you could stand there. And that is a great off angle because that, again, that sightline forces their crosshair so far away from your team. And this sightline means, okay, you can stand here and your cover is just backing up, right? Like if the enemy's playing over here, they can't see you anymore if you just back up a little bit, right? This is the floor is now your cover. So let's see what happens next. So you haven't bladed yet. And I think it's looking for the opportunity, so I understand. But do know that it's totally fine to blade and like get one pick, right? I'm gonna pause this because I'm gonna talk about the death real quick. But yeah, you don't have to hold blade for very long. Um, it is good to wait for like a nice opportunity to do it. But when we're talking about Genji and all the different things that counter his ult, all the different things that like make it more difficult to ult to begin with, to blade, you might be looking at the team composition. You might be thinking, okay, well, I want to make sure that the Monka ults first because I don't want to be caught in a trap. I want to make sure that the Mercy Valks because it's so fucking hard to chase after her with my ult, and if you don't time it perfectly, then she just gets away. You might want to wait for cleanse from the Kiri and jump from the Kiri. You might want to wait for ice block from the Mei, and then you might be thinking, okay, well, I don't want to be burst down by the soldier's rocket, so let me make sure he's used that cooldown as well, and make sure that he doesn't just pop his visor in the middle of my ult, right? That is a lot to keep track of. And when you're at that point in a game, don't hold your ult. Don't hold your ult. It's totally fine to press Q and then they blow three of their ults and you just have to hide behind a corner. Right? Like that's not ideal in every situation. But when you are in a situation where the sheer amount of things you have to wait for or cooldowns you have to bait, um, when that is a very large number and when that gets, almost overwhelming, just it's fine to just hit Q and go for one pick that you can maybe reliably get. I have won games, not necessarily, fully intentionally, but I have won games before pressing Q knowing that I can't really kill anything with my blade at this point because there's too many things that can counter it on the field. But the very fact that I pressed Q forced enemies to blow their ults thinking I would dive them. And because they blew three ults just thinking I would aggressive dive them, but I didn't, and I lived, right? That's the important part. Then my team would roll them the next fight because they had just blown all of their ults, right? So little things like that are totally okay. The point is you don't have to necessarily wait for the perfect time to blade. Just think about maybe one or two things that really trip you up, and you don't want them to trip you up this fight. So say you want to go on the Kiri, just think about Suzu. Like, think about one thing at a time and don't let all the rest overwhelm you or keep you from even trying, right? Okay, oh, so I paused it here because I want to go back a little bit. So Genji is most effective at close range, and when you're at like mid to long range, you're going to be poking more. I don't really play him mid range a lot because when I find myself in that situation, just like this, mid range, when I find myself at this range, I usually die. And that's a big skill check on my part. I'm not super good at sort of this mid range fight. But the soldier, right, at this range, you could do all the crazy movement you want. You could double jump, you could be like clipping on the wall a little bit to try to throw his aim off. But at no point in this room will your body be away from his crosshair. Like, this is a pretty decent range for a soldier, right? He just has to move his mouse a little bit and follow you around as you're trying to jump and go crazy. And the more you jump to avoid his bullets, right, the harder it is for you to aim. So an optimal range for an engagement like this on Genji, like if you want to dive him, you want to be, and I'm not joking, like right here. You want to be preferably like above his head, like right here. And this is what you would see on your screen as you're right clicking, trying really hard to do that close tracking, the bigger flicks, because the closer you are to someone, right, the easier it is for them to disappear from your screen. So part of what makes Genji difficult, but I think very fun, is his range can be like a challenge, and it's something that I personally have to practice and warm up on because like this close range is difficult. But if you're at close range, you know, controlling your movement, and I'll show you some tricks about like aiming a little later, but basically using your body movement to help you aim, right? This guy, you're like up here, and when you fall, he has to swing his mouse down to try to like keep shooting at you. Suddenly you're on the left, you're double jumping on the right, right? Like, so his crosshair is flying all over the place just to try to keep track of you. But at this range, he's just doing this. He's just moving it up and down a little bit, kind of following you. Real close range, he's freaking out. Yeah. So in a situation like this, if I'm not comfortable with taking this fight, if I'm not the one who chose this fight, this engagement, I just leave, right? Like if I think that he has more of an advantage than I do, like there's no shame if you can survive it, right? Maybe you don't have dash in this moment. Maybe you can't just quickly dash behind your shield, right? I know this is dashing into a May, but she's so preoccupied she probably wouldn't even notice you, honestly. Um, if you don't have the ability to like maybe even short dash right here and then immediately climb the wall, and you think turning your back is going to get you killed anyways, then yeah, go ahead and take the fight. Like do as much damage as you can. Um, but when you're fighting someone, this isn't necessarily the range you want to be at. You want to be pretty closer. And if you are at this range, you want to be over here. You want to be taking cover and kind of poking until he's down a little bit, down HP a little bit, and then forcing it into your range, like with a dash. Or, because he seems very greedy, he's got a galactic gun, he thinks he can take this fight, forcing people into your range by letting them walk into you. So, in general, this is kind of a risky position. I'm personally just ignoring all this happening because I don't think they would turn to notice you, but higher elo people would. But if you're in a 1v1 situation, imagine you kind of duck over here, right? And he can't shoot you. He's pissed off. You've taken cover. And if he's greedy, he's going to go boop, 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 and run right here. And he's going to close the distance and put himself at a disadvantage in this fight, right? You want closeness. He wants this range. So if he's greedy and a little dumb, he's going to come chasing after you as you just wait patiently at this corner. You're not backing up, you're waiting. You're baiting him into a closer range so you can like be on top of his head and freak him out, right? So in these situations, in these fights, think about what is advantageous for you as opposed to for him. And if the other person has more of an advantage in this fight, let's say you don't have either of your cooldowns, right? And you think, oh man, I don't really want to fight this guy without any cooldowns. Like, it's totally okay to just back away from the fight or put yourself in a slightly more advantageous situation if you feel like you can't back away, right? Okay, what's your plan? Where would you like to be right now? We're going to think about positioning. Like, where would you like to stand? I like this. Very good. High ground and off angle. Bringing in the blade. First blade of the game. You've had it for a little while. That's a really good pick, though. Nice. Very, very nice. Okay, good, good, good. Your team's cleaning up. See, that was very good because the whole fight was happening behind you. And that blade was successful because the Maga, the tank on the enemy team, and a couple other people were paying more attention to your team than to you. right? So the timing of that was very well done. You want your team to be a distraction while you make a play, or you want to be a distraction for your team as they try to make a play, right? Good job noticing the soldier. I'm wondering if you follow up with noticing that. Okay, and that's fine. But at that point, if I let me go back just to yeah. So your crosshair, you see him at that point. Myself, just because he's taking an angle, right? He's going to this position and he's taking this angle, and I would be thinking, okay, I don't really want him on this flank, right? Because right now the enemy team has what this space. They have like their red crown on the floor is like a line kind of here. And if they start coming over into this space, then they're in more danger because your team has better sightlines to them, but they kind of solidly have control of this space. This guy is trying to take control of this space. He's trying to be like, okay, I'm going to take that red crown, I'm going to cut it through the payload, and anybody standing over here, from here all the way, they're going to be in danger because of this guy, right? He's creating a sightline, he's creating an off angle, and you notice that. You saw him kind of going in that direction. Now, I'm not mad at you like continuing kind of a poke phase here, setting up on high ground, but again, like what really is the difference between crosshair here and crosshair there? It's not bad, but it's still not like enough of an off angle to justify like holding this position for a long time. No one's really contesting this area. If you see this guy beginning to contest an area, like at that point, I would either be dropping immediately and poking my head out and shoot at him just to scare him, not to get the kill, but just to say, "Hey, I see you right here. Like you don't get this for free." And a lot of the time, people will just run away. They'll be like, "Oh man, he noticed me. Okay, I'm gonna leave then." If if he chooses to challenge you on this fight, then yeah, go for it. Challenge him. Like this is a pretty isolated 1v1 area, right? No one else is gonna be bothering you. In fact, he's at a disadvantage because if your team happens to notice that you're taking this fight, right? Like they can help you. He's put his sightline here, right? And he would be forced to back up here to get help from his team. So when you see moments like that, you saw him kind of running this way. It's okay. You're highly mobile. You're a fast character. So if you wanted, you could choose to kind of check on that, right? You noticed something. It was important and really good that you noticed that flank because your team sure as hell didn't. So it's okay if you want to be the one who kind of double checks on that and says, hey, I'm going to challenge this space. Because if you challenge this space, you've taken that red crown that he's trying to draw a line in the floor and you've just erased it and put it way back over here again, right? You're ensuring that like all of this area is safe for you and your team. Okay, so you have idle time. When you have idle time, think about what you can do. So, yep, lots of idle time. We're just chilling. It's totally okay. Fight was won. Do you have your ult yet? No, right? You're at 30% to ult. So one thing you can do, if there's not a chance to say your team is back here, that's okay. Leave them behind. You're a Genji. You're hard to hit. You have wall climb. You have double jump. You have deflect. You have all this mobility. Like, leave them, right? Now, if the enemy pushes up and the enemy's like over here, you don't want to be like way up here out in the middle of nowhere, not even engaged in the fight, right? But you're not doing that. You're not doing that. Standing here, right, and poking a little bit, standing over here on the boxes while your team's chilling, so you have this whole sight line down into their spawn, right, and poking from this distance way over here, you're gonna get ult charge. You're safe because if you get pressured, if they start shooting at you and you take like half HP damage, you have a mega if you're feeling spicy. If you're saying, you know what, you're not going to push me out of this location. I'm drawing a blue line with my own crown. You're not going to push me out. You can all this cover to just slide over here, grab this mega as they're walking back from spawn. And if they do really, really pressure, right, and say they get up to this point and you're still over there and you have to be dealt with, and some are sliding over here like, okay, let's deal with the Genji. The Mog is now looking at you, everyone's like, let's deal with the Genji, and you're poking, poking, poking. just dash over here, just dash over here, and now you've forced out cooldowns, right? You're drawing their attention. So instead of running it over here to get to card as fast as possible, you're taking away time on their timer by making them deal with you, the absolute nuisance in the corner, right? The reason this sort of positioning is safe is because you have cover, you have access to a health pack, you have access to your team, their LOS, and if you keep dash for an escape, you have a very quick escape back into even safer cover, right? Because they'd have to push into your Reinhardt to get to you over here. So instead of kind of, yeah, we won the fight, we're walking around, we're hanging out, we're doing all this stuff, imagine if you're set up over here already, and as they're respawning and walking out the door, you're just M1 down this choke. It's so far away, you're not even really aiming at anyone. You're aiming at an angle, right? This is an angle that characters' heads and bodies are going to walk past. And chances are, even if you can't see them, there's a pretty high chance you're going to do some damage anyways. You're not going to kill anyone. You're likely not going to kill anyone, but you're going to get ult charge. And the ult charge is going to be very advantageous. So in idle moments, think of poke angles, think of where you want to set up, and think of just aggressively getting ult charge. Aggressively doesn't mean you're in their face. It means you're doing it with a sense of urgency. You're saying, okay, fight was just won. Okay, where do I go next? Fight one, what do I do? We won the fight. Where do I go? Where do I go? Where do I go? Right? Okay, I want to be here. Where do I want to be? Right? Just as soon as you feel that moment of idleness, that okay, we're kind of just hanging out right now. Think instead, what should I be doing? Like, where should I go? Where do I want to go? Right? Ooh, okay. Isn't you? I see you. You're clearing the soldier. So again, the advantageous range is what you want. Good, good escape. So if you want to, if you want to take this matchup, just go back a little bit. Let's see where we're at. Okay, yeah, if you want to take this matchup after he's rezzed, I'm gonna play it for a second, right? And you're basically saying like, hey, I don't want you up on this high ground. Like, I don't want you up here. That's too good of a position for a hit scan DPS, right? And you want to control this space. He seems so greedy, right? The more you peek out and the more you put your body right here, the easier it is for him to gun you down. Because he only has to move his crosshair just a little bit. Just a little bit, and then he can shoot you and track you and do all he wants. Again, your advantageous range would be making him look up here, making him swing his camera around and do all this just to try to see you, right? This is a better range for him. So what you can do, and what I find very successful with what I call greedy people, which is people who think they have the advantage, who think they're better. Honestly, they're got a little bit of an ego. Look at the skin. He probably bought this. He spent money on this game. Like he's definitely got a bit of an ego here, right? He's gonna chase you, and he's gonna feel real dumb if he chases you, and you just sit right here. You just sit on the stairs, and you hear him walking up, clunk, 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 clunk. And now he's put himself in the range where you can right-click melee him, and he's missing half his health already. Right before a dash, he just runs right into you. So in these moments, I know you want to take the fight here, and it's totally fine to take the fight, but think about the most advantageous situation for you, for the character you're playing. And if close range is your highest burst damage, like not this isn't close range for Genji. Close range for Genji is on his head, right? And you're looking at his cute little wolf ears and you just want to throw a bunch of shuriken into him, right? That's your advantageous range. If you can't get there yourself, sometimes people will deliver themselves to you. And you can just wait and be patient. And if he doesn't round the corner and he starts shooting down, into the enemy team and says, I'm not going to round this corner, then pop out and poke him. Pop out and poke him. And then he's going to be mad. He's going to turn around again and be like, oh, screw you. And then maybe he'll turn and shoot. And you poke him to the point that he gets so annoyed that he runs after you. Like most times he will. It's the mind game of it, right? You're the cool cyborg ninja guy. So play these games with him. Like mess with his head a little bit. That's totally fine. That's super fun on Genji. But make sure that when your hitbox is shown to someone, You have chosen to show it. It's your choice. It's your engagement, right? It is your decision to dive this person. And anytime it's not your decision, just just value your life, right? Just think, okay, well, I don't really want to be here right now, so I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to go somewhere safer. I'm going to take a minute to breathe. I'm going to look at the battlefield, see what's happening, and then I'm going to make my decision on who I want to dive. It's totally okay to disengage. Totally fine. Which is good. Man, he hates you. Let me go back a little bit. Yeah, like he does not like you. You are distracting him so much. That is super good value. Technically, you're creating a 4v4 because of how much he's pursuing you. Yeah, yeah. And you're controlling this lane. You're taking this angle and saying, this is my space, this is my location, you're not allowed to be here. Okay, and here we go, health pack hunting. I see that. So just to talk about that real quick, I know especially in lower elo that your supports are not going to notice you or they're not going to be able to hit their shots. And in a situation like that, yes, it's good to rely on health packs. So I totally fine with what you did, kind of going health pack to health pack, like trying to find your safe place, basically. But part of the reason you needed those health packs was the way you were disengaging. So if you can minimize the enemy's sight lines on you, what angles can they see you from? And you choose where you run based on those angles, right? Well, if I run to the left, then I'm running into the whole team. If I run to the right, I have a wall to use as cover, right? Little things like that help make you take less damage in general. So even if your supports aren't really on their A game or like they're struggling to maybe keep up with healing you, like just you taking the time and the consideration to think about your pathing. How often are you out in the open? How shootable are you where you're standing, right? How many people can see you on the enemy team? If you try to keep those things in mind as you're moving through the map, it can make your support's jobs a lot easier. It can make your job a lot easier because if you're taking less damage, then you're taking less time to constantly try to heal up to full by chasing health packs around the map. Very nice pick. Good dashes. Fantastic. I love the angle. And since you're forcing, yeah, this is great. Since you're forcing that angle, so you have the Manga turn, and he couldn't even shoot at your team, and it gave your Ryan the chance to push up because you're distracting that Manga. Yeah, that was fantastic. Good work. So yeah, that's typically what we mean by like an off angle. I like to think of it as, you know, based on where my tank is standing and where I'm standing, how much of a difference is that like swing of a crosshair? Like where would the enemy's crosshair have to swing to see me versus my tank, right? If it's a big swing, that's stressful for them. They don't want you so far behind them that they have to move their mouse to actually look at you, right? They do not like that. Again, good pills. If you use M1 there, your left click, yeah, your long range left click, you can have some more precise shots and potentially get the kill on that Genji. Not guaranteed, but the left click on those long range shots are going to give you a higher chance of doing some damage and potentially getting that pick. Yeah, see, oh, that was so good. The aim was great there, those headshots. Yeah, fantastic. Great crosshair placement for that long range. So do you want to challenge this positioning? You want to get him? Yeah. See how he ran from you? Genji faster. So see how he's running. You have really good like aim, actually. Like very, very good job on that. Okay, you want to be a little closer in this fight. So as this fight is happening, so here's sort of what I mean by urgency. This, I'm totally cool with. You're clearing a flank, you're saying, hey, get out of here, you can't be in my backline. Get out of here, you're taking the fight, you're taking the 1v1, awesome. He runs. He runs. And in this moment, you have cleared the flank. You have won the 1v1. I know he didn't die, But but in this game, try to think less in terms of how many kills I got, and think more in terms of like what space am I controlling? Like how much space am I owning right now? And I'm putting a line in the sand. I have my blue crayon out, right? And I'm drawing these lines and I'm saying, yeah, you can't stand here. So you pushed him out of the space, which means you won that 1v1. Like that is a fantastic job. You have just completely protected your backline. And because you protected your backline, this guy can be aggressive. And he can be aggressive because of you, right? So now that you've cleared your space and you've taken control of it again, now you want to try to match his aggression. So he's in the fight. So at this point, with your positioning, what is the best call here, right? You're looking at the battlefield. There's a Sojourn who's missed a shot on you by a mile, my God. Or maybe she was shooting this guy and missed him by inches. I don't know. Um, at this point, when you're looking at the battlefield, you've cleared your space. What is the next step now? So have a goal. You saw that Genji the backline. You peeled. You decided I'm going to try to get him out of this backline. I'm going to take this 1v1. You had a plan. Even if you didn't consciously think of it, your actions were a plan. And you won that plan. You took that space. That was fantastic. So now, once you have completed a goal, what is the next step? What is the next thing you want to do? Okay, so I'm going to go back a little bit and we're going to just see how this fight plays out. Because I think the whole fight happens and you're still in long range. And basically what we want is near mid to end of a fight, try to be like close range. If it makes sense, if it permits it, right? That is your range as a Genji. You want to be in there diving. Right, so when you see your tank and other people being aggressive like that, I want you to try to challenge yourself and be even more aggressive than them. Be 2 steps ahead of them, right? So like it's okay to be in front of your tank in these situations as long as you're doing it safely, right? The wall is never going to fail you. It's never going to break. The health pack is close by. You can just drop down here, right? Um, taking a far, like you're kind of pushed up from your team, but taking a position like this and getting that poke ult charge and just being a nuisance and being in the way. This isn't being too aggressive. This isn't leaving your team behind. This isn't backline Genji, blah, blah, blah. You're finding a lot of value for the timing of it. Instead of just sitting on cart as your team pushes it forward, you can immediately getting ult charge, right? You can be taking attention. You can be wasting their cooldowns even from this distance. Imagine if a May's walking out here, you're poking her, she gets low enough, she just ice blocks right here. Well, she doesn't have that cooldown for, how much is it? Like 10 seconds as the fight begins. So she's so much more killable because you forced a cooldown like that simply by being aggressive early and trying to minimize your idle time. Okay. I like this. I really like this flank. You had full cover the whole way there. Good pick. Oh, that was rough. She did a lot of damage there. I saw that. But blades like that are totally fine because you got a very important pick and you made such a distraction that your Ryan just walked in and shattered them. Right? And that's because they all turned their back because they were freaked out that you hit blade and you hit Q behind them. So you did have value there. Now you want to get back in your range, which is really close to them. You have dash, you can invest it in those situations. Because your Ryan's swinging, and he is doing so much damage that they're likely going to die quicker if you just throw dash in, even if your dash isn't the thing that killed them. If they die anyways, you get a reset, right? And with your Ryan swinging, that's just so like juicy extra damage. You'll probably get lots of resets with him doing that. All right, so overall, really good job. I would just say what you're talking about with the capitalizing on an opportunity. I think a big part of that is using idle time and setting yourself up with urgency. And what I mean by that is when a fight is won, when you think, okay, I'm kind of just looking at my team, I'm kind of just walking around, I'm kind of just like waiting on point. Instead of doing those things, think, where do I want to be right now? Where do I want to position? How do I get there? And just checking to see if that positioning is safe, right? You can have very aggressive positioning, and it is still technically very safe positioning because you have a wall as cover, you have an escape route, you have a health pack. It's okay to press those positions and take that space. In the same way, when you 1v1 that Genji, who was trying to take the space of your backline, he didn't die, but you scared him off. And so you won that fight simply because you took back that space. You said, you cannot be here. It is moments like those that win the game. Okay. So a couple of like Genji concepts. Your range is here. And what I mean by that is your highest damage occurs when you are very close range and you're landing those close range shots. So let's take like the Kiriko, for example, in your fight. If I'm kind of playing back here and I'm poking her from distance and I'm right clicking and I'm right, I'm like, right, it's taking a while to get her down. But if you're very close range, let's let her respawn. Even if I right click melee into the body, she's less than half HP immediately at this range. So your highest damage is going to be like very, very face huggingly close range. I believe they took the damage combo out. I think she's full health now. But if you can get that right click melee into the head, like that's how low she gets. And that's when, if you dash, she's just dead. So those damage combos for Genji, which is like the dash onto someone, you right click into the head and you melee them, like kind of all really quick, like that. It's really hard to do that fast. It's an incredibly difficult thing to aim. But that's what we mean by Genji's range and his burst combo damage. He can do a lot of damage very, very quickly. It's just only at a particular range. And that range is insanely close to people. Like this, if I can't hit them with my melee, I'm not really in range. If my right click doesn't get all three shuriken in their body, I'm not really utilizing my damage as much as I could. So my warm up a lot of the time is that's VAXTA, Vaxta. I just hop into here and it's frustrating because of the strafe of the bots, but it's really helpful for aim. So play Genji, and the first thing I would do is work on your dash distance. So you can dash through people, right? But if I turn around and they're not in melee range, I'm not doing my best damage combo on them. I'm not really close enough. So what you can do is use a double jump to kind of aim at the floor. So I'm not dashing full distance. I'm dashing right, like closer where I want to be on the target. Vax is good because the strafe is crazy. And what you can do is just try to dash, punch. And if you hit the punch, like you're in good range, right? She might die with the next dash punch, who knows. Right. So you want to be in that range. So just like practice it. You don't even have to do the punch yet. Just okay, I'm dashing on you, I'm dashing on you. If I can dash punch, that's great. Oh, missed it because they're so close. See, close targets are like hard to figure out where they're at. As you dash, think about, well, am I landing in front of them or am I landing behind them? Because if you land in front of them, you dash and you look up and punch. If you land behind them, you dash and you have to turn around, right? That's a different movement for your aim and for your crosshair. So where you land your dash, where you aim your dash, is kind of important, right? Yeah, and just practice that a little bit. And then you can put your right-click melee into it, right? So you dash, right-click melee, does a little more damage. The right-click's a little harder to aim, but just take it slow. Like, you don't have to dash right-click melee immediately, because that is such a fast movement. You want to dash, kind of track the target, make sure that they're like on your crosshair, and then right-click melee. And it's okay to take that a little bit slower in practice until it becomes more like a muscle memory, right? Yeah, so overall, really good job. I think your aim is really good. Just remember that your M1 is for long range, your M2 is for short range, and short range is not mid range. It is not soldiers' advantageous range. It is you are hugging their face. It's melee range, basically. Um, and just during the idle moments that you have in game, instead of kind of sitting on cart or kind of just walking around wondering um, what you should be doing, try to make a goal. That goal could simply be, I want to stand over here. I want to see if I can stand over here. Like, will the enemy really punish me a lot? Will they let me take this space? Just be curious and see how they react. And if they push you, just leave. Like, honestly, value your life there. You don't have to win. Sorry, you don't have to get a pick to win a 1v1. Your fight with that other Genji was a great example when you protected your back line. You won that fight without having to kill him, even, right? Uh, but yeah, great job and good luck learning Genji. You're going to climb real fast. GG's.